Hello guys, I would wish to take you through the process of making sure that you score that A plane that is in KCSE. And to start with, we shall post a question to ourselves. What you should know about to pass computer studies in KCSE, or rather, what should we know that probably we know and ignore, or we totally don't know. Computer studies consist of 3 papers, and that means for you to get an A, you must pass the 3 papers. Basically, without talking about the ratio in which each paper contributes, we have paper 1, that is computer theory with 100 marks. Then we have paper 2, that is computer practical. It also consists of 100 marks. Then we have paper 3 or computer project that consists of 100 marks. Then we can go one-on-one and look at each paper individually and probably try to see or hit which parts are crucial. Let's start with the computer paper 1 or theory. Computer paper 1 consists of 2 sections. We have section A, which consists of 40 marks. What you need to know about section A. This section covers the syllabus, that is, it contains questions from all work covered. That means in section A, you expect a question from Form 1 to Form 4, in a question from the syllabus. It takes raw evaluation skills. When you talk about raw evaluation skills, that in section A, you do not be told to draw, you do not be told to discuss or expound. You'll only be asked list, state, name, and probably explain, being the highest skill level that can be asked there. Then, a very important point, each question carries 1 to 4 marks. That is, in section A, you don't expect a question of 5 marks, 6 marks, 8 marks, 7 marks, no. Then we have section B. We have seen that computer paper 1, section A contains 40 marks. Section B contains or consists of 60 marks. What you need to know is that in section B, it consists of 5 questions. We have question 16, question 17, question 18, question 19, and question 20, each carrying 15 marks. That is very important. Then question 16 is a must. That means question 16 is compulsory. That is, it is a must for you to tackle it. Question 16 strictly comes from Form 3 topic, elementary programming principles. Here, you'll be asked to draw a flowchart, or you'll be given a flowchart, then you interpret or give outputs. You can also be given a flowchart, then you are told to come up with an algorithm or a pseudocode or an interpretation of the same. Therefore, be very keen. You must get that A if you really know that question 16 comes from Form 3, and therefore you strictly go to Form 3. Then, how do I choose questions in section B? Most of students fail because they cannot be in a position to tackle questions or choose questions clearly or in a clever way. Tips. Let me give you the tips. Tip number 1. For you to be able to choose questions, read all the questions before you can settle on the ones to answer. This helps you to balance marks and tackle the question with a high score. Get this from me. If you want to get that A, once you get the question paper, read all the questions before you can settle on the ones to answer. Here, we are talking about section B. This will help you to know that this question, despite having part A, B, C, D, it is not the best for me. But another question there is best for me because you read all of them. Otherwise, if you don't read, you will get yourself confused. You will have answered all the questions only to note that the last question was the best and would have saved time for you. Tip number 2, never answer all the questions. Mark that one, never answer all the questions. We have said you have question 16, that is eliminate 16 since it's compulsory. We have question 16 to question 20. Avoid answering question 17 to 20. You'll be wasting time. And also, you can get that question, the examiner will not mark the last question or ignore it, and that question is the one that you had scored well. Therefore, never answer all the questions. It will be a waste of time and you might lose the high score question. Tip number 3, remember there is always a distractor. What do I mean by a distractor? A distractor is a question deliberately put there, but to be sincere, it should be avoided at all costs because you may not attain more than half of awarded marks. If you are very keen, you realize that exams in computer section B, there is a question that is usually tricky or not really easy to understand. Therefore, not better. Always identify the question that seems funny or hard to understand. It may be the distractor we are talking about here. Therefore, be very keen to read all the questions so that you can identify the distractor and avoid answering it. Don't tackle a question because you had seen it in the morning or you had discussed the section or that question previous day. But tackle a question because it will help you score the highest. There are some students who will just answer the question because in the morning of the exam day or in the previous day with their friends, they had seen the question. Therefore, you are tempted to answer it, whereas you will not score 15 out of 15. But there is another question which you had tackled many days ago or even last year or even previous years, but you can get or score 15 out of 15. Therefore, my advice is do questions as per the mark. That is, do the question you will score the highest score. Then, always check the balancing of marks in different questions vis-a-vis the marks awarded. For example, let's have question 17 and question 20. In question 17, part A is 5 marks, whereas in question 20, part A is 1 mark. B, 3 marks, part C, 2 marks, and part D, 5 marks. Therefore, that one is 8 plus 7, that is 15. The other one is 11 plus 4, 15. Therefore, you get a student answering question 20, whereas he or she is not aware of part C, which is 6 marks. Whereas another student will answer question 17, and you can see the marks there are almost balanced in question 17. But in question 20, there are 2 parts with very high marks, and probably you are not conversant with part C and part D. Therefore, that was just an example of explaining what I meant by you read all the questions and balance marks. Make sure you take a question that you will score at least half. Don't just take a question because you understand part A and part B, whereas part C and part D carries the lion's share, but you blank or you don't know how to answer it. Therefore, don't just answer questions for the sake of answering. Then be aware of applied questions. Many students don't answer applied questions. They just go away. They run away from applied question. What is an applied question? An applied question is a question that is practical in nature, but should be answered theoretically. For example, in most cases in Form 2 syllabus, where we have word processing, we have databases, we have spreadsheet, and also in Form 4 syllabus, where we have networking topics, you get that the examiner hits there and comes up with an applied question. I have given you a very good example of an applied question here from one of my exams. Question 17. The following spreadsheet represents the number of items of various types of flowers exported in Red Flower Limited. We have month, roses, relays, and scab. Then there is the distribution there. The cost of each stem from the farmer is Kenya shillings 25. This amount is typed in cell B10. Write the function that will calculate the total number of stems of all types of flowers in the month of January. Write the formula that can be typed in cell E2 and be copied down to obtain monthly purchases of roses, 2 marks. Identify the data type in cell C1 and cell D3, sorry. Then these are some symbols of keys on the keyboard. Name the key represented by the symbol. Okay, my point is, applied question don't need a lot of writing, but smart technical brains, and because you are aware now, do practice on such questions. Therefore, my advice is to my students, always tackle applied questions, but I will not advise you tackle if you score 0. But since we still have time to do the the revision, do a lot of revision, tackle a lot of applied questions because they are actually repeated, only that the wording is different. Therefore, these are the questions that you can score easily, but students avoid them because they are applied, they are practical in nature. These are very good questions. Then we have binary mathematics, that is Form 3 first topic. In almost all paper 1 exams, a binary mathematics question must come over. They basically test addition, that is binary addition, binary subtraction, ones and twos complement. Therefore, be aware that in almost all paper 1 exams, that is in computer studies, this question must be there. And therefore, because you are aware, I failed, you must get that and that A by making sure that you know which parts are tested. And once you know which parts are tested, then you'll be in a position to score and go for that A. Therefore, this question must be there. Then note, it is very crucial to note this one. If I need to get that apron in computer, note that 45% of paper 1 in most cases is Form 3 work. What does that one mean? Form 3 work or syllabus should flow in your blood vessels if you want that apron. Therefore, get this from me. If you revise Form 3 in and out, that is book 3, understand. The next part is binary mathematics. This is the first topic in Form 3. In almost all paper 1 exams, a binary mathematics question must come over. They basically test binary addition, binary subtraction, and ones and twos complement. You basically note that in an exam, the examiner will test binary addition, binary subtraction, ones and twos complement. Then note that 45% of paper 1 in most cases is Form 3 work. What does that one mean? Form 3 work or syllabus should flow in your blood vessels if you want that apron. Mark that one from me. Just take any paper 1 exam, do the percent of Form 3 work. You'll notice that it carries the lion's share. That means that if you go through Form 3 syllabus in and out, and then probably you tackle other parts, even shallowly, I'm sure you will score that apron that you want, because computer theory will basically come from Form 3 work. Always think inside the box. This is our next tip. What do I mean by the box? The box here is the syllabus. Use the syllabus to revise. Don't just go to the internet and read stuff. Let the syllabus guide you what is required in KCSE. Note that not everything you read is important in KCSE. Therefore, here I emphasize once more that you must revise using the syllabus. Very many students don't even know how the computer syllabus looks like. They just follow what the teacher has given, and therefore my advice is ask your teacher for syllabus. Go through the computer studies syllabus so that you cannot over-revise. You cannot revise stuff that will not help you get that A. Therefore, basically make sure that you revise what is there and what you expect to be examined. Don't consider yourself a genius. This is another mistake that we do as students. We consider ourselves as geniuses, and this develops something called overconfidence. Therefore, never be overconfident. Therefore, this means always read a question 3 times or more. Always read a question 3 times or more. That means you must know why the question is there. Know what the examiner wants from you. Don't hurry to answer a question. Before you understand where the question is coming from, that is the topic and its purpose. A good student who wants to score an A will always read a question more than 3 times. Once he or she understands the question, then he will ask you, his or herself, which topic does this question come from? And once you know that this question comes from computer system, automatically from the stuff you have revised, you must get it right. But if you don't understand where the question is coming from, I'm sure you will not score, or you will just do something we call guesswork. Therefore, make sure you read a question and try to ask yourself where this question comes from. Once you do that, you'll be in a position to hit and score that apron. Note better, never attempt a question and forget to cancel it if you don't want it marked. Otherwise, you'll be in hot soup What do I mean? If I tackle question 17 and I don't cancel, then I answer question 18, question 19, question 20. The examiner will mark question 17 as part of what you have chosen, and then probably ignore question 20 since it is an excess question. That means you have to cancel to tell the examiner that this question is excluded from what I want you to count for me. And therefore, I repeat, never attempt a question and forget to cancel it if you don't want it marked. Otherwise, you'll be in hot soup. You never know how examiners will agree that if a student has answered all the questions, probably we ignore the last one. And for that point, you'll be trapped badly. Then there are two methods of performing cancellation. Some students will just cancel and make the work illegible and dirty. Therefore, avoid cancelling question in a hurry. What you need to do, like just I have shown you here, I have cancelled my paragraph using a diagonal line that is decent and everybody can see that I have cancelled. Alternatively, if you are cancelling a sentence so that you can write another one up there, you can use method number 2, that is the strike through method. You just take a ruler and do a neat cancellation. Therefore, make sure you cancel like I have shown you. Avoid cancelling or scribbling, making the work illegible and also making the work dirty. Mind your handwriting. Note, some students have very bad handwriting. This time around, when you are writing for your KCSE, try to train yourself on how to write well. Therefore, mind your handwriting. KCSE is marked by human beings, not machine, like the case of KCPE. So, make sure you write well. A good handwriting attracts the reader. That's very crucial for you. And remember, write your answers in English. We use English to write our answers in KCSE, apart from languages like French and German, or Kiswahili and others. But in our main papers, especially computer here, which we are talking about, write your answers in English. Then let's go one-on-one on the next paper, that is computer practical, our computer paper 2. What do I need to know? Remember, my aim here is to train you to score an A. Computer practical consists of 4 areas of testing. I repeat, it consists of 4 areas of testing. Therefore, nobody should tell you that any other work is tested here. We have spreadsheets in Kenya, or in our syllabus, we use Microsoft Excel. Databases, in our case, we use Microsoft Access. Word processing, in our case, we use Microsoft Word. Desktop publishing, you are free here, but we use basically Microsoft Publisher and Adobe PageMaker, but 90% of schools opt to use Microsoft Publisher. Then, note, computer paper 2 exam consists of 2 compulsory questions chosen from the 4 topics stated above. Each question consists of 50 marks. Mark that one. The exam consists of 2 compulsory questions chosen from the 4 topics stated above, and each question consists of 50 marks. That is very important. Tips to pass paper 2. Therefore, here I'll be taking you through the steps or the tips that will make sure that you don't fail in paper 2. Number 1, let's look at don'ts, what you should not do. Never put passwords in your files. A lot of students feel that they should secure their work, even in KCSE, and put passwords. That one will make you fail. Never forget to write the version of Office you have used. Many students forget to use the version. We are using versions 2019, 2016, 2010, 2007, and even other schools use 2003. Therefore, always indicate with a pen on your printouts the version of Microsoft Office you have used in your practicals. Never save shortcuts. This one you can ask your teacher what we mean by saving shortcuts. Basically, it means that you have left your work in the hard disk, but you have just copied a bit of direction to a flash disk or to a disk. That means when your work is marked from Nairobi and probably your school is in any other place, then you have left your work in your school. That means you will fail. Never ever use the wrong program to answer the wrong question. For example, never answer a spreadsheet question using database or a DTP question using Microsoft Word. Otherwise, you will be in a hot soup. That one you will score 0. Probably the examiner will give you 0-1. For example, some students see the relationship. In many cases, database and spreadsheet are sister and brother. And on the other hand, DTP and Microsoft Word are cousins. Therefore, students will confuse and use the wrong package. That one will read you in a hot soup. Don't do that. Skills tested in word processing. Question: the following skills are tested in Microsoft Word in practical and project. Remember, we are tackling the practical bit where we have the computer paper 2 and computer paper 3, that is the project. And you'll notice that in project, the packages we use are also tested in practical session. Therefore, we test typing speed. That means when you are given a typing question, the examiner wants to see within 50 minutes or within a certain time, can you be in a position to finish typing that? Therefore, that one we are checking typing speed. Then we also kind of check table of contents, list of figures, list of tables, drawing tables. That is tested in project and also in paper 2. Performing calculations in tables, that is tested in practicals. Drawing auto shapes, that is both in paper 3 and paper 2. Print screen, taking screenshots, that can be tested in paper 2 and paper 3. Writing references or bibliography using APA style. You can ask your teacher what we mean by APA style, though it's not very important here. Then you have mail merging. Mail merging is basically tested in question practical, that is practical paper. Then note better, Word is part of computer project or paper 3. You all know that we have been writing KCSE report or documentation using Microsoft Word. But that doesn't mean that Microsoft Word will not come in KCSE. That's why we have mentioned it as part of practical. Then spreadsheets or using Microsoft Excel. Skills tested in spreadsheets. Number 1, we test functions and formula. If a function, if function, basically here, if function is a disturbing stuff here, make sure you understand if. Sum if, count if, and if functions. We call them the logical or comparison functions. Then we have the charts and graphs. This must be tested in paper 2. You must be asked to draw a chart, no matter the type of chart, basically column and bar charts. Then we have data entry to a cell. That is obvious. We have formatting and editing data in worksheet. This is where we apply decimal places. You can see I have bolded that because you will be asked to apply decimal places, either increase or reduce them. You will be asked to apply currency symbols like Kenya shillings, US dollar, etc. Then we also test copy, cut, and paste data in between cells and worksheets. You will be asked to copy this range of data to another part. Then it is a must that the examiner must test you how to adjust column width and row height. For example, you are given student name Don Gichai Ngugi, then it doesn't fit inside the cell. Therefore, you have to adjust the column width. That is a must to be tested if a spreadsheet question must be there. Also, this is a must to be tested, merge and center cells. This is whereby you are given a heading, then the heading should fit in one cell. We apply merge and center cells. That is a skill that must be tested in spreadsheet. Then sorting and filtering, data validation and subtotals. Those are not so common, but they are part of the syllabus. So you can expect them tested in KCSE. Remember, before we even go away from this slide, note better, spreadsheet is not part of computer project or paper 3. That is a very crucial point to note. Therefore, you don't expect to use spreadsheet in computer project. Then we have databases or Microsoft Access here. Skills tested in Microsoft Access, we shall test creating a table in design view, setting respective data types and field properties accordingly. That's where you set memo, ORE, lookup wizard. On the other field properties, you can set default value, caption, input mask, validation rule, validation text, required, not required search. Then we have data entry and editing using datasheet view. This is where you run your design view. Once you run from design view, we call it datasheet view. That looks like Microsoft Excel. Then we also test, and this is a must, we test how to assign primary key, foreign key, and relationships. When a primary key comes over, relationship follows. Relationship and primary key are sister and brother, or you can just call them cousins. When we talk about a primary key, it is a unique field that you must set, whereas when you set a primary key from another table, then you refer it as foreign key. Then we have perform calculations in tables and queries. You can talk with your teacher on how to perform calculations in tables in Microsoft Access. This is supported by Microsoft 2010 and above, and queries. But in most cases, the examiner will ask you to perform calculations in queries, forms, and reports. Then we shall also test create forms by using wizard and design view, creating reports, macros, blah 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 using wizard and design view. Also applying navigation button using command wizards. Sometimes you get that the wizard is not functional. You just click on the activate wizards. It is just below the commands. Therefore, you must test if access is brought. We must test application of navigation button, next, previous, cross, save button, search. Also, we can test running of macros, then performing calculations in a form and report, respectively. Then note better. Remember, features of a primary key should not be null, should be unique, should not accept duplicates. That is very important. Then, database is part of computer project or paper 3, a very important point to note. Then also I urge you to consider watching my videos on databases projects. There are so many, and they will make sure that you are an expert in that field. Therefore, database is part of computer project or paper 3. We usually use database and Word. Then we have this package that very many students don't like using it. I don't know why. We have desktop publishing. We refer it as DTP. That is desktop publishing or publisher. We use MS Publisher or Adobe PageMaker here. Therefore, what do we test? What do you expect to be tested in this part? You will expect to be tested in the following parts: setting page setup, that is A4, either landscape or portrait. Use of text boxes to set where text goes. This is a must. There is no question in DTP where we shall not test the text box skill. Layout guides and column guides. There is no desktop question that will not test layout guides and column guides. Grouping of objects, we can test grouping of objects. Insert pages, this is a must to be tested, whether you know how to insert pages. If in case you are given a 2-page magazine, then you must know how to insert pages. Apply page borders, apply ordering of items. That is when you are creating a certificate, for example, you must bring some objects front, send others behind. That is bring front, set behind. In nutshell, you can just call it text wrapping. Then we have apply header and footers that can be tested. Setting measurements, this is a must, and I think I should have started it as the first one. Setting measurements and margins accordingly. Make sure you know how to set measurements and also to change measurements, like from picas to millimeters, millimeters to inches. That one can be tested. Setting measurements is a must, and margins, it is a must to be tested. Also, we test copy, cut, paste skill, whether you know how to copy, how to cut and paste. Then formatting and editing, that is obvious. I am not emphasizing so much. You can be told to change the font size from Calibri to Algerian to Times New Roman to Tahoma, such. Then you can be asked to edit a photo like crop, that is editing. Therefore, consider watching my video on creating a certificate. That one will give you a lot of skills on how to do desktop publishing. Then, on the other hand, DTP is not part of computer project or paper 3. Therefore, I don't expect to see you using DTP in a computer project. Therefore, though some student might opt to type their documentation there, we are not so much limited to saying it is not part of computer project, but basically we advise students use Microsoft Word rather than DTP. Then, in conclusion, getting an A is simple, but you have to balance all the 3 papers by ensuring that you utilize your time well. Don't take any computer paper for granted. Every paper is crucial, that is important for your contribution to getting an A. That is the end of my presentation. Remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed for me. Then you can also get this presentation on my website, www.gichaidon.co.ke. I'll drop this link of my website below this video. Also consider watching other Microsoft Access, other Spreadsheet, Microsoft Word, and also other advanced levels in my YouTube channel.